Okay, guys, so welcome to our first ever virtual Champions and Challenge Cup Pathway Night. So just to kick us off with a few sort of introductions. On the call tonight, we've got obviously myself, who you all know. We've got Tom Gamage from the foundation as well. So Tom's going to be helping me out with a few tasks. But I know full well you've not come to see us tonight. I'm not under any illusions. So we've got some far more exciting and interesting people to listen to tonight. We've got Mike Hynard, who's joining us. So Mike, if you want to give us a wave. So Mike is our Saracens Academy manager. So Corriday is just joining us. There we go. So yeah, Mike is our academy manager, and you'll be hearing a bit from Mike throughout the meeting. We've also got Andy Dorling, who's joining us as well. So Andy is involved with our academy as well. And Andy heads up the Developing Player Programme, or you may know that's the DPP. Some of you may have heard that. But probably the most exciting, we've got Corriday, who's joining us. So Corriday is one of our academy players. And we've also got Joel Kpoku, one of our senior men's players, who has very kindly offered to give up their time tonight to come and speak to us. And as I said before, you can ask them some questions as well. So as I said, guys, you can ask questions. So if during the night something comes to you that you would like to pose to any of the guys, then please feel free to post that on the chat, on the call, and Tom will be going through those and we can ask some of them later on. So I think the first thing to do is just to update you on the Champions and Challenge Cup programme and where we're at. We are still hopeful of a return to rugby in the new year. So I'm sure some of you are back playing at school and maybe even with your clubs now, but we are looking to get back to Copthall Stadium for some fixture nights early in the new year, as soon as it's safe and as soon as we can do that. Very exciting. We're also looking to align the project a lot more closely with the academy. So with what the work that Mike and Andy are doing with those guys. And I probably think at this point, we're no better person to tell us about that than Mike himself. So Mike, I'll hand over to you and you can tell us why you're interested in the Champions and Challenge Cup program and what we're going to be doing over this season.
Mike, thank you. Am I able to share my screen?
Absolutely, yeah, go for it, Mike.
It said host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, right, I'm going to need someone here. How do I do that?
I think you need to give Mike host and then it will work.
How do I do that then, Luca?
I wouldn't know.
Or if you share,
maybe
you've got a share screen button down in the middle.
I have, mate, yeah.
Can you
multiple participants can share
that's
some
the one.
There you go. There you go.
Right. Brilliant. Right, gents, I'm just going to share a brief presentation here with you, which we'll go through. Oh, I'm going in reverse order here. There we go. Right, so look, just to give you a very brief background, I'm just going to run through a quick presentation to give you a bit of an understanding about the academy, how it fits in with hopefully where you guys are and where you can fit into the academy going forward, and a bit about the academy environment, and then hopefully, probably more importantly, you'll hear from, or you've got an opportunity to speak to Corriday, who's in our under-17 programmes, come through our under-15 and 16 programme over the last couple of years, and Joel, who's come all the way through the pathway, going to one of our partner colleges at Oaklands College, played for Saracens Amateurs in the youth section, and obviously now is a first-team player. So those guys are probably the ones to really speak to, but I'll just give you a flavour. Quite simply, the purpose of the academy is to find, develop, and then retain the players and staff we feel are going to make Saracens successful, both domestically and in Europe for the foreseeable future. So it's about developing players for the long-term future and the long-term success of the club. We are one of 14 licensed England RFU licensed academies. So we are number 9. So our area is Hertfordshire, Essex and Kent. So quite a big area, but also heavily surrounded by Northampton, Wasps, Harlequins and Irish. So it's important for us that we're only allowed to find and develop talent from our area. And it's important that we maximise the talent and the potential that's in our area. And this is really one of the reasons I want to work more closely with Mike and the Champions and Challenge Cup projects and other similar sort of projects to ensure that all the talent across our area, which does actually include North London as well, that we're able to maximise that and provide a genuine pathway for players to come through and meet the purpose of the academy and hopefully one day represent Saracens and win the Premiership and win a European Cup. In order to do that, what we're trying to do is develop players with a Saracens DNA. And by that, I mean, our core values are an integral part of everything we do. So work rate, honesty, discipline, humility are crucial and essential to everything we do, both on and off the pitch. And the environment from DPP all the way through to under 16, under 18 academy, and then senior academy is all geared around using the core values. One, to make you better rugby players, but more importantly, to make everyone hopefully better people. And I think, we talk about the core values there. It's about living the values. And as I say, living them on and off the pitch, which is, it's no good just switching them on and saying, oh, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to be disciplined when I'm playing rugby, but actually when I'm not playing rugby, I'm not going to be disciplined, I'm not going to work hard, and I'm not going to be a good person. It doesn't work like that. What you do off the field needs to reflect what you do on the field and vice versa. So part of this DNA and this journey for the Saracens DNA, there's obviously the core values, but there's also key buzzwords or key phrases and words that are used throughout the club that are important to our environment and are important to helping mould and shape people to become better rugby players and better people. And the journey we try and take players on, we talk about, and you'll see on the right-hand side here of this slide, we talk about explore, where when players first come into our academy program, sort of under 14, 15, we get them to explore those words. You know, what is discipline? What is honesty? What is work rate? And then as you progress up into 15, 16s, discovering in a bit more detail that actually what it means to you, it might mean something slightly different to somebody else. And it might look slightly different at school than it does on the rugby pitch, or it might look slightly different when you're playing with your mates in the park, but you can still use these values all the time in different environments. And then going into sort of under 18s and into senior academy, the apply bit is, can you apply these core values consistently? Can they actually become a way of life? And actually, can you reflect these core values daily at home, in school, in class, playing with your mates, playing rugby, till eventually that you understand them so well and you understand what they mean to your teammates that you're able to drive those standards. You actually become the standard bearers of the club, and it's not new players who come into the club or internationals that get brought in who will always come in to add quality. It's actually the academy boys that have come through the academy into the senior academy, into the senior squad, who ultimately become the standard bearers, and they determine, what is acceptable and what isn't, and how we do things at Saracens and why we do things at Saracens. So just quickly, I've got a couple of slides here, and Andy could probably articulate this much better, but I'll give it a go. But basically, because we're a London club, and instead of having a nice little pyramid that goes from one level to the next, actually a player's development journey is far more complex than that. And it's far more like a tube map. And you can come in and out at different times. The length of your journey might be different to the person sat next to you. And it could be different for any number of reasons. Maturation, physical potential, injury, selection, form. Some people don't start playing the game until much later, 17, 18. We get a lot of boys who come into our program at 18 who have only started playing for a year or two. So they might miss the whole first part of the pathway. But ultimately, that's sort of currently what our pathway looks like. It's Hertfordshire, Essex and Kent DPP program that feed into a Saracens development program that then feeds into the black line, which is our Saracens player development group. And that really is the bit that is now fully aligned with those county programs, so that players can move between the Saracens program and the county program, depending on how well you're playing, what your potential looks like, and just how you're developing physically and mentally. So, sorry, that's pretty much the same one, just a bit more detailed version of the junior pathway. What we're looking to do, and I'm sorry this is a bit small, is look at a talent transfer program, whereby we pick up players from under 13, 14, 15, but all the way through, who don't necessarily go to traditional rugby playing schools or traditional rugby clubs, and provide them with an opportunity and a pathway into our academy pathway. And really that's where us linking with this program and other similar programs, that we're looking to just broaden our net of talent. I think we're very good at selecting players from the traditional rugby playing schools and clubs, but actually there's way more talent in our area and across our area, and this is important for us to maximise that talent and hopefully provide guys like you with an opportunity to come into our academy at some point. Again, sorry about the picture, Joel.
It's all right.
The environment is what makes it. It's not. The environment makes the people, and I'm sure Joel will expand on this a bit more. But I've already sort of spoken about living the core values: work rate, discipline. Competitiveness isn't a core value of ours, but it's a vital characteristic for any player that has aspirations of being a Saracens first team player. You can't progress through the pathway if you're not unbelievably competitive. Social capital. By social capital, we mean this is partly about us getting to know each other and becoming genuine friends and family, and get to know each other really well. Get to know each other's families, girlfriends, wives, kids, etc. That we genuinely care for each other, because if I know the player next to me really well, I know what drives him, I know what motivates him, I can encourage him, I can help him achieve his potential. And that's really what that's about. It's about us really not just using the word family and it not really having any meaning. It's about really genuinely caring for players, staff, everyone across the organisation. And then making memories is again, you know, that's why we, you know, I'm sure again Joel and Corriday will go into more detail about why they play rugby, but it's yeah, winning trophies is nice and winning games is nice, but actually it's about making lifelong memories, and that's what's important. And then if we put all these things in place as an individual and collectively, then you're going to get opportunities, and that's really what that bit is there. In terms of, sorry, the last bit for me, I just want to play you a clip that we played to our under-18 academy group last pre-season. And it sort of summed up for me what we tried to get out of our under-18s. And it was basically about your characteristics and what you need to do in order to achieve your potential. And hopefully this will sum up what we're about, and hopefully bring to life some of the things I've been trying to say. So.
There's not a person on my team in 16 years that has consistently beat me to the ball every play. That ain't got nothing to do with talent. That's just got everything to do with effort.
Hi. Hamza's mom. Hi, this is Hamza's mom. Hamza Kabi's mom.
You love your job. Do you get frustrated when you see brilliant talent that's not obsessed? To be honest with you, the word talent frustrates me as well. I love talent and I love seeing it. But for me, since I've gone into Liverpool's academy and I've watched a lot of academy games of late, the important thing for me is these players need to understand the other side of the game. Fighting, winning, tackling, going where it hurts, letting your lungs burn, really digging deep. And, you know, you end the games when young kids want to give up. You can't do that at Premier League level or Champions League level. So, for me, just as important as talent is the other side of the game. Attitude as well as ability. That's involved. Talent's not enough. Mentality.
What are you doing now? You know those people.
When you get to the point where all you want to do is be successful, as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. I'm here to tell you, number one, that most of you say you want to be successful, but you don't want it bad. You just kind of want it. You don't want it badder than you want to party. You don't want it as much as you want to be cool. Most of you don't want success as much as you want to sleep. Most of you won't be successful because when you're studying and you get tired, you quit. I'm here to tell you today, if you got somebody came my office the other day crying. I said, look, don't cry to give up. Cry to keep going. Don't try to quit. You're already in pain. You're already hurt. Get a reward from it. Don't go to sleep until you succeed. All men are created equal. Some work harder at precincts. I'm going to say it again because you might have missed it. All men are created equal. Some work harder at precincts.
There you go. That was it from me.
Mike, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. I love that. I've seen that before, that phrase that all men are created equal. Some just work harder in pre-season. I love that. That's superb. Yeah, if you don't mind stopping sharing your screen, Mike, great.
Yeah.
So, boys, hopefully you see there that there are elements that we do within Champions and Challenge Cup, and there are words that we use and things we talk about that Corriday is doing in the academy, that Joel is doing with the senior team. So you're on that pathway. And hopefully what Mike's conveyed there is we're trying to give you that transition from where you are now into where these guys are. So I think this is a really good time for us to hear from the people I think you're probably here to see, let's be perfectly honest. So Corriday and Joel, if you could unmute yourselves so we can hear from you guys. So firstly, again, thank you so much for joining us, fellas. Really appreciate it. Just from our point of view, I think what would be really useful for our guys is to see your journeys and how you've got to where you are. So maybe the same question to both of you, but Corriday, can you just tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, how you got introduced to rugby, sort of that sort of first part of your rugby journey?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just starting off saying I'm really honoured to be called to talk to you guys. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I was born in Ireland, and I moved to South East London when I was about 2-3 years old, and I went to school local, and then I went go to a grammar school for secondary. I go to St Olave's Grammar School right now. I'm getting introduced to rugby. Originally, I had no interest. Like when we started school, I wanted to play football. Then after football one day, rugby coach walked in the changing room and said, "You're quite big. I think you should play rugby. You must like hurting people." And so that's how it started in year 7. Started training with them. Still wasn't really interested. Then in about year 10, I picked it up. I got called to trial for Kent, and then that's how I've gotten into the Saracens pathway.
Perfect, thanks, Corriday. Yeah, funny, no one ever told me I was so big that I should play rugby. So it's never one of my strong points. Joel, how about you? Where did you grow up, and how did you get into rugby?
Well, initially grew up in Hackney, in the parts of Homerton. Grew up there and then moved to Southgate so just when I was in year 5, left Hackney to move over to Southgate and started playing rugby at Ashmore Academy in year 7. Okay. Initially had no interest whatsoever. It was actually my PE teacher that actually asked me and my brother if we were interested in starting a rugby team, and I thought, why not? Then came around, we were invited to a tournament nearby at another school and got picked up by a rugby league team there, and I started playing rugby league for London Scholars. And then from there, in year 8, I had a good friend of mine whose older brother played for the Saracens Amateurs, and he invited us down to one of the training sessions. And from there, played from year 8 to under 16s. Got picked up by Richard Hill. As he was passing by, he asked one of our coaches who me and my brother were. And then from there, that's when I was introduced to the Saracens Academy. I didn't go through any county levels, just got picked up by Richard Hill. And then from there, worked my way into the junior academy up until under 18s, got contracted, and then here I am today with the first year of my first team deal. So.
Amazing. That's quite a claim to fame, that, Joel. Yeah, it's picked up by Richard Hill.
Just you have to get that in there sometimes. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's a bit of a name.
So grateful for him.
That's great, guys. So I think what's really interesting there is that at the start, neither of you were particularly interested in rugby. It wasn't maybe your first love or your first passion, but that grew in you when people saw that natural ability. So was there a particular point, Corriday, for you where you thought, this is what I want to do? Like, was there a particular moment, or did someone say something that you thought, I want to be a rugby player, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life?
I feel like there wasn't a specific moment, but up until like year 9, year 10, where I wasn't doing much outside of school, it was just for fun and like to mess around with my mates. And then I started getting called for trials, and I realised I was actually quite good at this, and it would be really interesting to see how far I could go with this. And I trialled in for Kent, got in, trialled for Sarries, got in, and so it's just been a really, really good ride.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, mate. Joel, how about you? Was there a particular light bulb moment for you where you thought, this is it?
To be honest, at the start, no, but because obviously I started playing rugby league, but then that was the only one that I actually because I played both of them at the same time, and I actually preferred the rugby league side of it. So I thought maybe I'd like to get into the rugby league side, because it was London Broncos that were affiliated to the whole rugby league, and that was the biggest club around, and that was the team who I wanted to actually just to get signed for. But then Saracens came around, and then it was more. I don't think it was a particular moment. It was just more me building love for the game and wanting to see how far I could take it, and just through my hard work, really, that was it, really. But there wasn't a moment where I was thought, actually, maybe I could see this as a professional. It was just more taking each training session, each game as it comes, and just enjoying the moments. And then, obviously, I have made it a good run, really, and that was it, really.
No, that's great. I think that's something for our guys is we always say, make the most of every opportunity, because you don't know where it's going to go, you don't know when it's going to end. So just take every opportunity you can with both hands. Guys, just to remind you, if you do want to ask the guys any questions, I'm going to keep asking them because I want to hear from them. But if you want to ask them any questions, put stuff on the chat and Tom will pick those up and you can ask the guys later. But boys, are there any particular challenges that you found with your careers so far? So Corridor, you're obviously a lot sort of at the beginning of that journey. Joel was a bit more established, but have you had any challenges or things you've had to overcome so far? Anything like that?
A really big challenge is changing the way I used to think from a small mentality, fixed mindset to a growth mindset, where instead of thinking I'm talented, I'm good at this, thinking how can I progress and be even better than where I am, because I feel like a lot of people get caught up in the moment as opposed to planning ahead for how they can improve and how they can be better, because a very few people are the best at what they do, and until you're one of those people, you need to keep working.
Yeah, awesome. Joel, same to you. And sort of as a professional rugby player, are there things, not just challenges, but also things you have to sacrifice that maybe in another walk of life you'd been able to have, but now as a rugby player you have to sacrifice, and is that worth it?
I'd say the sacrifice part would be because I've got a lot of friends that go to unis, etc. And obviously for me I can't obviously be a part of them when they go out, because obviously I've got to focus on me having to go to training and having the game on the weekend. And that's obviously a massive sacrifice. Obviously, I'm not going to be naive to the fact that we do enjoy it after a game. We do have nights out, etc. But it's more not being able to have as much fun with my friends and actually thinking I've got a career to pursue and wanting to make the best out of that, rather than having that party life on the side, whereas that could come after each training, after on the weekends, for example, after a game. But challenges wise, I'd say just more as Kai alluded to just then, about having that mindset, changing mindset, and throughout your career, more to the fact that wanting to get better as a player, rather than not being too satisfied at where you are. And always looking to improve your game, asking coaches questions, working on work-ons that you need to improve on. And yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks, guys. I think Corridor made a really good point there, that very few of us are going to be the best at what we do. And it's about just keep pushing yourself, keep challenging yourself, and keep trying hard. And like Joel said there, asking coaches, how can I improve? How can I get better as a player and as a person, I guess. So guys, what's probably the hardest thing? Obviously, what we see is you on a pitch enjoying yourself and some of the stuff afterwards as well. What's the hardest bit about being a player? Is it an early morning alarm call? Is it those winter training sessions? What's the hardest bit for you, Corridor, as a player?
I feel it's keeping that 100% motivation at all times to do those hard training sessions, to keep committed on your diet plans, making sure you're eating right. It's just trying to stay 100% motivated at all times, which I know can slip, but you've got to keep on reminding yourself why you're doing it and making sure that you don't quit.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Corday. Joel, how about you? Any particular restrictions as a senior player, that things you're not allowed, or?
For me, it would be, obviously, waking up early in the mornings. I'm not particularly a morning person, but for me, it'd be more off the field stuff, really, in terms of what you do away from the rugby ground, as in your diet, your analysis, etc. I'd say that'd be the hardest part in terms of like trying to stick at that 100. And
Yeah.
No,
that's great, guys. Yeah, I suppose. I guess when you're playing or when you're training, you've got Mike or Andy shouting at you, or you've got Mark McCall shouting at you, so they're going to motivate you. Is it harder to be disciplined away from the pitch and sort of, like you say no to things and say, I can't go out, I've got a match or a training next day? How hard is that corridor as a young guy to say no to those things?
I feel like it's really, really difficult at times, and it can get you down, but you've got to remember why you're at home, because you've got a training the next day or a match the next day, and just stay disciplined, I guess.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think we can all probably relate to that, the boys especially. Like, you want to go out and see your friends, you want to do certain things, but you've got homework, you've got practices, all that sort of stuff, and they're just as important. So yeah, it's really good to hear it from your side. I feel like it's been like the hard stuff. What about the good stuff? Like, what's the best? Probably up until now, what's been the best thing about being a rugby player? What's your highlight?
The social side of rugby is amazing, and it's one of the greatest things about playing rugby, and just the core values as well. They help you progress so much as a person. If you live the core values, it makes you feel so much of a better person. And I'd say my highlight of playing rugby has been probably Portugal Rugby Youth Festival. We went on with club. There were loads of people from different countries like New Zealand, Australia, America, and it was really fun to have loads of different cultures come together and meet and play rugby. And especially because we won the whole thing, it's something that will stay with me for a very, very long time.
Yeah, amazing. I guess like Mike said, making those memories must be amazing. Joel, how about you? You must have some pretty incredible memories up there, I guess.
Yeah, I've got quite a few, but the one that sticks out to me, I'd say, is the 2018 World Cup out in France with the under-20s. Just for me, that was just an unbelievable tour for me, because it was the first time I was involved in any age group England set up, and to obviously get to the final, but not to win it was obviously disappointing. But the journey to us getting there was unbelievable. Like the culture in France was amazing. The food was great as well. The boys made it even more special for me, and yeah, I'd say France 2018 was an unbelievable highlight of my career. One that I'd always stay with me forever.
That's amazing. And just say you've won a World Cup as well. That's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, well, we didn't quite win it, but
I didn't win. Apologies.
No, we didn't win it. We
Into a
came
World
short.
Cup. Into a World Cup.
So that'd be my highlight, to be fair.
And what about this is my question. Like, what's the atmosphere like in a Sarries dressing room after you've won? Like, you're physically broken, you're in pain, but you know you've left everything out on the pitch, and you're surrounded by like your best mates having won a match. What's that atmosphere like?
Oh, it's unbelievable, especially like you just said then. It's like we've all put our bodies on the line, and we've got a massive W behind us, and it's like we've all done that together, and it's obviously another memory that we've all created as one. And then also to sing the song, the Tiki Tonga, is even more special. And that, yeah, just gets everyone pumped, and it's like, yeah, it's an unbelievable feeling.
Have you been in the middle of that circle, Joel? Have you done that? Have you been the one?
Yeah, I've been in the middle before. Yeah, it's quite daunting, but then once you're in it, it's like everyone's obviously just singing along, and it's real good.
Yeah, guys, for those of you on the call who, if you've not seen it, go onto YouTube, and I guess if you just put in Saracens Tiki Tonga, it would come up, right, Joel? Go on there, and any video you'll see inside the Sarries dressing room, and at the end of a game, a couple of players, right, Joel, get in the middle, and they sort of lead the rest of the team in a chant.
The best one to watch would be the European final from last year, and also the Premiership final where Richard Barrington takes lead, and that is really good, to be fair. So that's one to watch. But
yeah, boys, when we finish, go onto YouTube, Google it, have a little look. Corriday, is there anything similar for the academy? Do they do anything like a post-match ritual like that or anything?
No, not really.
No. I mean, you can start one up.
I'll try.
Initiate one. So, boys, yeah, I know you've heard a lot from me and the guys. So, Mike or Andy, is there anything else any other pearls of wisdom that you think our young players would benefit from at this stage?
Just really from my point of view, and it's great to hear from Joel and Corriday, and obviously their journey along the way. The exciting thing is, with us working, closer with you, Mike, and the lads, is that extra line that we've created on that tube map, which will give the boys a genuine opportunity to link up and join at the right point for them, if they show that right potential. So, good luck everyone, and hopefully, see you on that train ride. But that's it from really. It's just fascinating to hear, Joel's and Corriday's journey. I never knew that Corriday was born in Ireland. I mean, who'd have thought it? So great stuff, lads. That's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing from me that I'd probably emphasise is I think Joel and Corriday have both sort of explained where they've come from, how they've gone into rugby and how they've progressed. Development isn't a straightforward linear progression. There's always setbacks, particularly with rugby development. Unfortunately, it is a contact sport and there's likely to be injuries at times. And I know Joel's had some frustrating times, missing games with injury, missing opportunities to develop through injury, and unfortunately also because young players take time to mature physically, mentally, they don't always get selected. Their form isn't always going to be good, and it's as players learn about themselves, they learn to build that consistency to their performance. And I think the one thing I want you to take away is it's not going to be a straightforward, easy, linear path. Both Joel and Corriday make huge sacrifices and have made huge sacrifices to get to where they are. And, they both, I know, still got big things they want to achieve, and they'll carry on making the sacrifices. But, going back to my presentation, that's where the core values come in. It's where being honest with yourself, being disciplined off the field as well as on it, working really hard will obviously help you achieve all you want to achieve. But sometimes, unfortunately, it will be tough, and it's then sticking to those core values, living those core values, and getting yourself back into a good place, fit well and playing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. Tom, is there any questions from the guys since we've been on tonight?
No questions yet, so this is your last chance.
So while you're thinking, boys, if any of you have got any last questions, and as I say, maybe just feel free to unmute yourself and shout out. But Toby from John Warner did actually submit a question. So Toby, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and you want to ask the guys, or I'm more than happy to ask them myself, but nice for you to have a chat.
So what's the hardest you've ever been tackled?
Maybe Corriday, do you want to, is there a moment you can recollect getting the stuffing knocked out of you?
Yeah, there are too many. Just remember one time picked up by 2-3 blokes and put on my backside. Horrible.
But you got up and carried on, right?
Yeah. I feel like staying on the ground makes a tackle worse. You just got to get up and shake it off and pretend it didn't happen.
Off, yeah, that's correct. That's very true.
Joel, is there one that you can remember, a particularly physical player you've played against? I know they're all physical, but
yeah, I do. Cell Sharks, the Dupree brothers. They smashed me pretty hard, both of them. Yeah, big boys, hard hitters.
Did they see you as a threat and think we need to?
Not
Stick one on
potentially, but yeah, potentially. But they're all big boys, very hard hitters. But yeah, that's one that sticks in mind.
Yeah, I can imagine being hit by a Dupree would stick with you for a little while. Tom, I've seen a few others come up. So
yeah, couple of questions here. So we've got one from Bassett. What is the best way, or what the best way you found to increase your speed and get faster?
I'm not going to let either of these two answer that. What I am going to do is pass it over to Chris Bajak, who's one of our academy coaches, who also does some athletics coaching. Chris, you got any tips for the boys on how you get them to be faster? Because Joel's definitely not qualified.
Yeah, I'm definitely not up there. No chance.
Can everybody hear me?
yeah, all good, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, my advice to getting faster would be two things really. One's got to do with your contact on the ground. So I would Google a couple of speed drills where you can work on your foot contact on the ground, because how fast you are depends on how quickly you make contact with the ground and how much force you put in it. So A skips, B skips, lots of bounding and plyometrics will help. Also, a great tip for young athletes and young rugby players is that your arms actually drive your legs. So pay attention to your arm action. A really good arm action, kind of hip to lip with your hands, so you go through a full range of motion. And then also consider your stride length, your cadence. So how big your stride is will affect how big your speed is. So those three things combined with a kind of recognised speed session, short drills with a good rest period will make a huge difference to any young rugby player.
Cool, thanks, Chris. Great question, Bassett, as well. We've probably got time for maybe two more, Tom, I reckon.
We'll take these last two. So Hamza asks, who influenced you to be a rugby player? Is there one person in your life at the minute who influences you to be a rugby player? Corriday?
I feel like a massive influence on me would be Maritoji, who is a senior Saracens player, because it motivates me a lot seeing someone that looks like me doing really good things both on and off the pitch, and it's just reminds me that I can do those things and I can be in that position.
Cheers, mate. And Joel, anyone who influences you?
I'm not going to go for the generic answer. I'm going to go for George Cruz when he was at Saracens. Someone like him, he's very diligent, an unbelievably hard worker. Goes around his business quietly, but he's very tough as well. And for someone like me that looks up to him, it's like, yeah, he's one of the players that I'd like to form myself into. And yeah, that's it.
Two pretty good role models there, I'd say.
Yeah, Mara and Cruiser.
Is there a little part of you, Joel, that wished Corriday had said you?
Nah, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
And then a little bit of fun for the last one. Who do you think, or is it similar to the last question, but who out of the Saracens squad, both maybe from the academy and from the senior team, who do you think is the most influential player at the team, or who does who's the best player, or who's the best player to play with on the team? Corriday, have you got anyone you can outline, maybe from both the senior team and the academy?
The academy, I'd say probably one of the props, Zach Hill. He's really, the energy he brings to every session is amazing. And even if you're not having the best day, training with Zach makes you feel so much better about yourself, because he's just he brings so much energy to everything he does.
Yeah. And Joel, for you from the senior team?
Senior team, I'd say Owen Farrell. He just pushes the standards to the absolute limits, and he's just an unbelievable player, to be honest. To just be a part of the same side, and just working alongside him is just amazing, because you just learn so much. Like his work rate, the way he obviously knows the game in and out. It's just amazing, and just in awe of it, really.
Yeah, it's two really good points. That although you as an individual, you have a role within the team, but what you do on a daily basis, both in and out of rugby, has a massive influence on other people. So think about what that does for you, but for your friends and peers and family around you as well.
Cheers, guys. I'm aware we've run over slightly. We're a few minutes over, so apologies if anyone's got somewhere they need to be. But just want to finish off, guys, by just reminding you about that image of that tube map that Mike showed us earlier, and the fact that we're all on that same journey. Obviously, we're a little bit behind where Corriday is, and Corriday is a bit behind where Joel is, but we're all on that same pathway, and the opportunities are there, and you're in the right place to have those opportunities come your way. So I think, as we said before, just grab those opportunities whenever they come. Don't miss training sessions at school. Don't miss training sessions with your club. Even if it's wet and cold and horrible, you've seen the guys there. The best thing is when you're there surrounded by those other players. And also when we're back at Coxwell Stadium, make sure you're coming to those fixture nights, you're coming to the pathway nights, and who knows what happens. You could be sitting here on a Zoom call in 5-10 years' time, answering questions from the next generation of Champions and Challenge Cup players. So, boys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Can just join me in thanking Mike and Andy and Chris, especially Corriday and Joel, for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us and give us their insight. So on behalf of all of the boys, thank you to you guys. We really do appreciate it. And we look forward to working with you in the future as well.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much. Working hard, everyone.